Good evening. I would like to call to order our regular committee meeting of the Ypsilanti Area Police Advisory Commission. 7:02. Will you do roll call, please?
Commissioner Humes,
Present.
Commissioner McCormick,
Present.
Commissioner Mohammed. Excused, he let us know in advance. Commissioner Monroe,
Present.
Commissioner Perry. Has anyone heard from Commissioner Perry? Okay. Commissioner Wolkoff,
Here, present.
we have quorum.
I make a motion to excuse Commissioner Mohammed.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Aye. Take a couple minutes and just go over the agenda. And if there's no changes or additions, I will make a motion to approve it.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Our minutes from our April 24th meeting, I don't know if everyone's had a chance to go over those, but if we could take a couple moments to go over those and make sure they're accurate and as we remember. All is well.
Looks good. All is well.
Make a motion that we approve the minutes from our April 24th meeting as written.
So moved.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Public comment. Is there anyone in our audience or online that would like to take this opportunity to speak to the commission?
There's no one on Zoom.
All right. So our discussion items. First up, Chief Anderson, congratulations.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
But the floor is yours for our monthly reporting.
Thank you, ma'am. Good evening, commissioners.
Evening.
We will start with the monthly summary of offenses. Again, towards the top, I made kind of a note that I think in terms of violent crime overall, for the month of April, we were down. Even non-aggravated assaults, we saw a slight drop. Intimidation. One area that I did highlight was burglary, which is down towards the bottom of page 2, 22,001. We did see an increase by 100%, roughly. These incidents, I looked at them just even before I came in here. They were kind of random. It's not in one area. They were all over the city. And some of the issues are, I would say, more civil than criminal, with roommates kind of having a dispute with their other roommates. So I'm not too alarmed by that increase. One area that we also saw a drop in larceny, the theft from motor vehicles. But one area I would say that I think our community needs to be a little more aware of are frauds. We're seeing an increase in frauds with text messages, wire frauds. People are getting text messages to send money, and is really affecting our elderly population. It seems like they are the focus of some of these crimes. So we're seeing them. They're kind of worded differently. It really depends on how the officer codes them when they put them in the computer system. But you'll see pretty much the frauds all the way down to fraud and wire, or even identity theft. They all kind of come under the same umbrella in the computer system. So we're definitely seeing an increase in frauds. You go over to the page 5. I did highlight obstructing justice. I'll speak to that a little bit with some of our force reports, but that's where you're seeing the obstruction of justice. You see a 400% increase. Last year we had 1, roughly this time you've seen 5. So that is a sharp increase. I'll talk a little bit about those and the use of force policy and how we're doing some reporting, which is increasing these numbers. And I'll explain that to you in just a second. Of course, at the bottom of the page, we're still having issues with the juvenile complaints, specifically in the transit center area. That's where you see that, basically 1,100% increase. So last year we registered 1, now you've seen 12. So we're still getting quite a bit of complaints there. Other than that, I didn't have a lot of concerns with the calls. Again, in most of our areas, you can even see it if you flip over to page 8, where it actually breaks down year to date. In a lot of areas, we have seen a slight decrease. I know we've had some critical incidents, if you will, within the last month. We definitely know in our community we had an assault with knives at the transit center a couple weeks ago. Also, right now we're actively investigating. You will see these on the stats for next month, but overnight we had 3 break-ins in our business district in downtown. And also a couple weeks ago, we had another break-in. So really that's 4 in 30 days in our downtown area. Again, you won't see that reflected in these stats because it just happened. But in our next meeting, I just pulled up even the system, you will see an increase again in B&Es in the community because we had 3 last night. But generally speaking, if you look across many of these areas, you can see, especially when you go to the year to date through April, and that starts on page 18. Look at us from basically this 4 months. We are trending down in a lot of areas. Crime is definitely down in the community. You definitely see more negatives than you do positives. I'll flip over to my report. So again, as I said, the obstruction of justice, we had roughly 5 uses of force last month. The reason those are high is that when I talked to one of the commissioners early on, we talked about reporting. So we are reporting use of force. We're over-reporting, in my opinion. If we use a taser, if we don't deploy it, but if we draw a taser to effect an arrest, we're reporting that now. I don't believe that's really in line with best practices, but I think it gives us an idea of how many uses of force that we're really having in the department. So that's why you see that number high. And when people resist, that's where you're seeing some of these charges. So we definitely want to keep an eye on the obstruction of justice numbers as they go up. We don't want, 20 or 30 in a month. But I do think there's some correlation here between us reporting. I think we're going to have at the end of the year, we're going to have higher uses of force numbers because of the way we're reporting it now. Currently, there was no citizen complaints still. That's a positive. No vehicle pursuits. That's also a positive. Just some of the training. I know I've kind of went over this several times, but we did finish up CPR training with the fire department. We're sending in an officer to de-escalation training in June. That officer will go to instructor development training for that. So she will come back to the department and train all of us in that course. And we plan to send somebody for defensive taxes. The class was actually canceled, but we're looking to send another person. That is an advisory level training from our state licensing authority. So we need to get a defensive taxes instructor trained so they can provide that training to the department. Recruitment and staffing has still stayed similar. We do have 10 department vacancies. We have a female starting on Tuesday in the department. That will bring us to 23 officers. We still currently have 10 vacancies. We do have an officer, as I spoke to last month, that's in training at Washtenaw Community. All the reports that we're getting is he's doing very well. And we're hoping to start interviews soon. There's another academy that is being run in October at Washtenaw. So we hope to put a few individuals in that academy as well. And as we're still looking for lateral officers, and there's roughly 2 interviews that are set to be scheduled here in the next week or so. Our lieutenant is actually at training this week, so it's kind of slowed that process. But once he's back, we'll get those interviews scheduled. 2 items I wanted to discuss. with the commission is first, we're running our community survey. We're a little over 30 days, roughly approaching the 60-day mark. We will report out on that at 90 days. What my goal focus is to make this survey annual. I think running it again or implementing it maybe at the end of the year, we modify it just short, simple a little bit, but I think we should run a survey annually, not just this 30-day. So I think that's something we can collaborate on to see what that looks like for us. And lastly, I wanted to approach the commission about assisting and revising our YPD citizens complaint policy, right? We have a policy in the department, and I think next month I could provide the policy, give everyone some time to read over, evaluate, add some feedback, and then I think we could jointly revise the policy together so we can implement that. And that's what the policy is, what governs our police department, right? So we can make changes to the policy on how citizen complaints are taken, how they're reported, how they're reported out. We can make all those changes to the policy. That's all I got.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions about what the chief reported on?
I got,
Concerns?
I have a couple.
Commissioner Humes?
So back to the de-escalation training, who does the training? Is that a specific agency, or is there a specific program that is utilized?
Yes,
I'm
sir.
curious.
We're using the ICAT training. It's actually the training is being held in Illinois, but it's a well-respected national trainer for de-escalation. And actually it's kind of innovative in Michigan. The only agencies that I was able to look up that have it is Ann Arbor. So it's an opportunity for us to be on the trending end, if you will, of something, but it's very well respected. It's about a 2-day training, and it goes over a lot of topics just in the area of de-escalation, especially around critical incidents.
So what is ICAT? ICAT? Is that what it is?
Yes, ICAT. Yep.
What would
Sorry,
that-
I can't
which
I
stands
forget.
for?
I forget the acronyms of what it stands for.
Okay, but I can look that up.
Yeah, I can get it back to you as well.
Okay. Then my next question is in regard to, you said, down in your discussion points, focus to make police survey annual. So what do you mean by making it annual? As in, reporting to us
We'll run a survey every year.
every year? So you just do it once? You're thinking of doing,
Maybe at the end of the year. Yep.
okay. Then what about the cards that we're asked to pass out, and the citizens have an opportunity to voice their thoughts, ideas, feelings about their interactions and stuff? How often are we going to get that information?
I think
Is that what you're talking about?
that's what I'm talking about, running that. Yep. So initially we were running the survey we're doing for 90 days, and then we're going to report out. What I'm proposing is that we just institute this as yearly, and we would decide on the time period really to see how the police department did for that year, or what's the community's perception after a year. So we would probably run this again towards December of this year, and then just try to make it annual.
Okay. Are you personally against maybe a couple of times a year? I mean, every 6 months?
Nope. That's why
And the reason-
that's why I said just
Come on, man,
propose.
because when we ask the community to respond, and they say, you get 2 or 3 people, 4 or 5, whatever the number, they say, okay, well, I responded, but I haven't heard anything back. And then, they're looking at me. This is, pretty recent. Well, so when are you going to hear something, or when do you make a move, Herman, and when do you do something to get information back to us? I said, well, we bring it up at our meetings, and if you have, if you think it's not timely enough, you can come to the meetings and voice your concern there. And we can probably get something expedited. So I'm thinking, when you say annually, 12 months that's a ways down the road. I would like to see something more. I guess what I'm saying, we report out. I don't want you to see it. Yeah, I don't want you to see it. I don't want you to perceive it as, well, we need to have, we're commanding or demanding anything. It's just, I need to be able to talk to the community every day that they see me and be able to respond to them in a timely fashion. And I think if we did this, if this survey was to be gathered, collected, and presented, if you will, at an earlier stage than just annually, I think it would be helpful. I know it would be helpful for me.
I think it's something to discuss. I think, if I'm utilizing some best practices, most departments running the survey quarterly or annually, I think that's just too soon. I'm not too soon. Every 6 months is kind of soon. Most departments' best practices with IACP, our overstanding, is really annually. But I would offer this to you as well. You said people have reached out to you and they wonder when they hear back. I see every survey that's come in, every last one of them. They come to me. We've probably had about 60 surveys right now. I don't know if that's representative of the community, but every survey that's come back, there's only been one that one person even asked for contact, and I contacted them personally. So I don't know who's telling you that they submitted, but every survey, I would just break the news to everyone. Every survey has been positive this far about the Ypsilanti Police Department, but we have had one where there's a misunderstanding and it needed some clarity. And one person reached out and said that he wanted to make a citizen's complaint. I called that person directly. It wasn't a citizen complaint. Unfortunately, they had more of a civil issue where police shouldn't even be involved, and we referred them to the building department.
Thank you.
So how can we get that information out? I mean, is it possible that, I know that City Hall is doing a much better job communicating outwards, and that there's something on Facebook from the police department. Is there some way that between City Hall or through the police department that you could just say that? Say that, this has been running for this many days and we've collected this many surveys and this is what we have found out. I mean, sans names, but so people actually know that there is a human being that's reading these and that there is some level of response. Like both,
I understand that.
we could do our due diligence and maybe, have our,
So do you want us to start releasing results before the 90 days, or
I don't know. I mean, I guess when I'm
Well, I was-
listening to.
what do you think?
I wasn't thinking that. I was thinking at 90 days or at 180 days, there's that information comes to us as a committee,
Yeah.
but I didn't
Or
think
that
about-
we're even collecting the information so people know, so it's not happening in a vacuum, because was this announced that this?
That we have a survey? I
this
believe
survey
so.
was going out?
I believe so.
We don't
I can
know.
double check and make sure that it came from the communications department, but I believe it was. I know every person that comes in contact with the officers, actually, we have them documenting also. The way I know that the officers are giving the cards out is that two things we changed. They make a declarative statement if they use force, so that helps social tracking. But also in their incident reports, every incident they put in there that they gave a survey card, and if they didn't, they have to tell me why. Right? There's been a few instances where a person was arrested for some crime, refused to take it. So I need to know that because I want to know that person didn't have it. Right? But even if a person's arrested, we're still offering the opportunity because I want to know what your experience was. You can be arrested. I want to know how that process occurred. So we're tracking it, and the officers are providing and informing people, but I can follow up to see if we've done some type of community push to say, hey, the surveys are available. I know I've talked about it in front of city council,
I was going
at
to
least
say.
on one occasion.
Mentioned it, that this was happening? Okay, no, so, okay. Because I missed the council meeting, so I didn't know if you, and I'm no longer feeding you notes at the last minute. So just, thank you,
Absolutely.
thank you.
No problem.
Do we have anything else for the chief?
Yeah, I did have a question about the juvenile issues around the transit station. This is before my time, but I had heard that in the past that there was some initiative or funding designed around having YPD have more of a permanent presence around that transit center there. And I understand, we're only 2/3 staff, so you're probably stretched thin as it is already. Is that something that could be looked at, maybe, for instance, maybe now or maybe when staffing's improved a little bit?
So without taking up your whole meeting, I'll give you kind of where I'm thinking and what I'm working on in regards to. I've had a lot of conversations over the last probably 3.5 weeks with the ride. And when we had the response, when the stabbing occurred, the next week we did run a detail because we have had several complaints about threats against employees. So we had a presence there. The response I got back from the ride it was very positive, and they wanted that to remain permanent. The issue comes is that employee burnout. I have a small staff. I can only contractually work them so much, right? We have to create a work-life balance, or people will experience turnover.
Okay.
Also, the overtime budget. Our overtime budget is very high, and part of my responsibility is I got to bring that budget into alignment. That's the only reason we didn't run it again for the second week. And also, there were just with vacations, it's hard to staff to keep people there. One thing I've proposed to the transit center, and I believe they are in favor of, is we would do an agreement where they cover overtime and we have an officer there, right? That is on the table. I think they're in favor of it. But some of those conversations have to happen with the city as well. 1 or 2 steps above me a little bit, but I will get the proposal done. We also, as in the police department, I'm sure all of you are aware, we're facing some budget issues, right? We may be making some cuts in the police department. That will affect our ability to effectively provide law enforcement services to the community. I know when people hear that we have these vacancies, it's like, well, you haven't been able to fill them. But we have worked our staff significantly, right? There's a significant workload for the Ypsilanti Police Department, even if people don't realize that. With our 20 people that we've had, we've taken over last year 18,500 calls. For an agency this size with this population, that is a significant ask. So any cuts will increase the strain on the agency. And we're all trying to figure out how to stop people from leaving, right? Just jumping agencies. These are the types of things that affect it. But to answer your question, I am working on a proposal with YTC because I would like to have a presence there. I am of the belief having presence will help deter some of those issues. We don't have to take, presence and enforcement are 2 different things. Enforcement doesn't mean we have to go out and enforce or handcuff or take anybody or cite anybody. But just being present, I think we can mitigate some of the issues that's happening there. And we are working on an agreement to try to balance that.
That's good news. I hope that comes to fruition. That would be great. And just like you're saying, yeah, exactly. Even I was going to suggest maybe there's some way we could kind of think of something outside of the box, like just parking a cruiser there, because it creates the question, are they on a call? Are they going to come back? Maybe I should not do this today, and just like you're saying, it's not that y'all necessarily have to act, but it gives a world of assurance. Yeah. The visual of having you nearby. I had one more question for you, but I lost it. Sorry.
Anything else for the chief?
How does everybody feel about the citizen complaint policy, us revising that as a collective?
Yes, because
Doing that many times, but yes.
Okay.
it needs to be
But
revised.
yes.
Be brought into this century.
Yeah. I think it's a couple things, and we'll discuss it. We need to we have to, I think it's best that we follow, again, IACP, that's kind of the standard for law enforcement that comes up. We need to follow that policy, but we can modify it as well to things that fit our agency, like not taking bond, right, for any type of citizen complaint, making it where any anonymous person can make a citizen complaint. That sometimes is an obstacle for when you're trying to investigate a citizen complaint. It can be a passerby or a third party that at least gets us to look into the situation. So I think there's a lot of things that we can do to bring it, like you say, into the century.
All right.
It also makes sense what you were saying about the categorization of the reporting of use of force. You're short-staffed trying to keep up morale, keep everyone happy, and I wouldn't want the stats to make you guys look like you're getting physical when you're not. So that makes perfect sense to me. So.
All right. Moving on to agenda item C, brought forth by Commissioner Wolkoff.
Yes, in the back of your packet, and hopefully you've had a chance to look at it, or if not, we can give a few moments, is the resolution for supporting the 30 by 30 initiative for advancing women in policing. From the research that I've done, it seems like, once again, I am reading. I'm not walking, nor is this my profession of police. But just the idea of the decrease of the importance of it, representation, the support that it has from law enforcements. I know they haven't done, from what I've researched, there hasn't been actual studies of community violence and policing, women in policing, but it's leaning towards it's a positive influence in violence. So what we've talked about is just putting this on the books, having city council hopefully vote on it, and just supporting. So even though we are there and this is something we work towards, it's on their books. It's a statement, and it also shows people higher onto the force that that Ypsilanti does walk the talk of diversity. Questions, thoughts?
I guess the one concern I have is just that they're kind of struggling to get up to staff. And I wouldn't want to impose like a quota or something that makes that more challenging to fill the rosters. On the other hand, I think I get what the intent is, and I support that. I think we absolutely need women policing. Crime happens across all genders, so there's things that a female officer is absolutely necessary for. So while I think we need some. I'm wondering kind of how that would work if we're sort of putting a percentage figure or an expectation on that.
From what I understand, and you might have other thoughts on this, but from what I understand, when I think about quota, it's just searching for the people without building the structure to support the people. Whereas here we're building the foundation and the structure. So as a woman coming into an force, if we have this policy, then, and if it's sort of that walking the walk, it is being shown that women are going to be looked at as police officers. And it's not going to be looked at, well, you can do this job, but you can't do this job, or we're not going to hire you because you are of childbearing ages, or you can't do this because of, and whereas have clear memories of quotas, whereas quotas were, we just need the bodies to put in the positions without necessarily the support to keep them in those positions. So we can put it down as a stat. I guess that would be the difference that I see between these two things. That's an excellent question, though. I would, I guess the way the chief would look at it too.
Do we have women on the staff now? How many?
Yes, sir. We have, as I said, we have a female starting Tuesday, and we have 2 women in the agency currently.
They're actually officers. They're not.
No, actually, we have a sergeant, and then our other officer is actually a detective.
Right,
So,
okay, so we do have them on, okay. But this would just be setting the policy, setting it that, for other women, if you're advertising,
I think one thing that we could maybe do to help this along is maybe, the marketing that we are using for hiring, maybe we can target some women's organizations. However, we still need to have the best qualified candidate, regardless of gender. And so if you have a male and a female, and I know we're trying to do this 30 by 30, and the male scores, 3 more points than the female, then you have to go with the numbers.
right,
Same thing if that female outscores that male. We're going with the number. So we just want to make sure that the female is not being overlooked because they are a female, or as Commissioner Wolkoff mentioned, because of certain attributes of a woman, where they're of childbearing age or got children at home, things like that. So I think maybe is that what you're trying to do with
exactly.
this?
And I don't look at this as saying that if there are a man and a woman, or male identified or female identified people, that one is going to go over. It's just saying that this is something that the city is and our department is committed to doing, of representation.
And it may take several years of attrition for this to happen.
Right,
you know.
and we may get there, we may not get there, but it's not, the quota would be, we have to get there.
Yeah.
Like by 2030, we have to get there. Well, yeah, it would be great if we could be there. It'd be great if we were 50-50, because just all of the positive things of people interacting with people and all the learning that happens. But it's something to reach for.
yeah, I think it's a great initiative. Definitely support the advancement of minorities, period, in law enforcement. Not to give you excuses, but one thing that we're faced with is just law enforcement now. First, I've read studies as high as law enforcement agents across the country report high as 30% decreases in the amount of applications in law enforcement, period, for several reasons. And we could be here all night talking about it. Law enforcement is just not as appealing to our society as it once was. What that has created is this super competitive profession where everyone is trying to do this same thing, hire minorities. And oftentimes now, the higher bidder, you have a lot more choice. When I started in law enforcement, again, not that long ago, but in 2003, I think the only agencies that were hiring were the Detroit Police Department, maybe Flint, and maybe some of the suburban areas, but it was always for one spot. So mass hiring was really only in 1 or 2 places. The state police were not hiring in that year. I think law enforcement, me personally, just from my small observation, when I started my class, we had maybe 40 recruits. We had 3 women and about 37 to 38 guys in the class. Now, when I teach, I see it closer, right? I see far more female representation in the class. So I think the profession as a whole is advancing. And that's just what I've taught her all around the state. I've taught agencies from Michigan, Ohio. I've seen female representation increase. I think one thing that we're going to struggle with is that we've got to be more competitive in the market when we're trying to attract people, period. And one thing I feel very comfortable with is that virtually anyone who has applied to our department, we give everybody an opportunity to come and interview. What I can't control is who shows up for the interview. And you've been there for interviews and seen that we had 3 or 4 people just didn't show up. That has become a reality now for us that wasn't there when I interviewed at YPD 10 years ago or when I interviewed at Detroit. When I interviewed at YPD, that lobby was filled with 6 or 7 people wanting those 2 spots that were available. This is just not our reality anymore. But I think this is a great initiative. It's something that we definitely should work towards.
I like that idea, the targeted marketing. Well, that makes sense. So that way people can see, like, you know, that's how it works. We have a good diverse crew here, and like Gail was saying, that I also agree with that you know, we want professional and the most effective and most professional officers at the bottom line. So yeah.
Any other discussion on this proposed resolution?
Councilperson?
No, I'm in full support.
Okay.
I think we spoke about this a few times within like the,
Well, since we've existed, yeah, since
Yeah.
you've been on it, it's come up
Yeah.
many times, yes.
so yeah, I'm in support of this. I would like to bring this to council to see how we vote on it. And
So it goes to council, right?
I just want to give a format issue
yeah,
with the, now therefore be it resolved. You have the Ypsilanti City Council affirms, it needs to be more like a request. Now therefore be it resolved, YPAC, request that the. Ypsilanti
support.
City Council affirms, so we're advising, and so we're like advising them. So you see that
gotcha.
sentence,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
That would be my only.
Okay.
and then would that same thing be offered to be it further resolved that the
I don't think so, because it's not saying that you're asking for it.
gotcha.
But I mean, I'm not sure, y'all can discuss it, but it needs to be more like a request that you're advising and not that you're not.
Great.
Great catch. Thank you.
And then I also have another question. Is there a slipping my mind?
I think you are right. So like maybe be it further resolved that, YPAC, requests that the city of Ypsilanti recognize the leadership, because that's what we're advising.
And then also, is there, because if I'm not mistaken, I think City Manager Halenga had said that there's some type of formal request for resolutions to go through. Is it still a thing where I can bring it forth?
Yeah, no, probably both, but,
Gotcha.
at first, so this is the first reading kind of a thing, and you'd make the changes next time. It'll be a second reading. It'll get a resolution number. It'll be formal looking. You'd vote on that. I'd also give you a form of request for legislature, and, you would sign off on that, and then we would send that city council, and then Roland at that point could do it.
Yep.
You understand?
No, but okay.
So at this.
No, I mean, we don't need to use this time. I will happily.
Well, we'll make the changes.
This is a.
So
then-
To approve
Have
the
to
changes.
change
Yes.
Yeah, this is just a
Yes.
draft. You make the changes. It comes back at the next meeting. Boom, you
And then we get numbered and we get real paper.
Correct.
And then it goes.
boom.
It has to go twice, yes.
Okay. So then I can contact you about the changes that I need to make, please?
Yep.
Thank you.
And I also will make the other page that will go with it, and it'll come on the next agenda. Thank you. And y'all will approve it for sure, and then it'll go.
Okay. I understand now. Thank you.
Okay.
So as a whole, is the commission in support of this? Going forward?
I am, yeah.
Yes. We need to do a formal vote, a voice vote? I have no
Because
idea.
it's not, next one we will.
Next one.
Oh, we're not officials, so we're not
We're just
officially
discussing,
voting.
we're just discussing and letting you know what our opinions are.
All right, moving on. The dates of our I know, right? Our November, December meeting, and location. So changing the November 2025 meeting date and or location, which was approved by YPAC commissioners on December 5th due to scheduling conflict with city council chambers already in use that day for the HRC meeting previously tabled. So we tabled this last month. Where are we with this?
We do.
Well, the east, oh,
We have the conference downstairs if you still want it in this building, but I know you guys were talking about maybe going on the road.
Conference room downstairs. Do we have access to sound system, those types
We
of
use
things?
that OWL thing,
Okay.
that, it's called OWL.
It's like a conference type deal.
Fill the room, and each time you talk, it gives you virtual. Pretty cool. Okay. Yes,
So
all on you, but I will.
you're good. So I'm looking at the agenda, not the agenda, the calendar for November. So the third Thursday, like y'all said, is HRC, but then that fourth Thursday, the 27th,
Thanksgiving.
is Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Are you inviting us to Thanksgiving?
I'm not even doing other
we can
food.
take that out thing to your house.
We
and
can go to your house for Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving.
Oh,
and eat
what,
that.
He's not even talking.
do we want to keep it at the third Thursday and use the conference room downstairs? Same location, same time.
It would make it a lot easier.
It would.
It would make things
Yeah.
lot
It
more
would?
straightforward.
Okay.
So if we vote on that, we can change it if we find a new location, correct? We just have to give the correct number of days to,
Correct. But for right now, I think that we need to have something set in stone for that date, because even though it's November, it's going to be upon us sooner than we think. So. I will make that.
I motion that we move to the,
We just relocate our.
we relocate for the November YPAC meeting to downstairs at City Hall.
All in favor? Oh, second. Do we have some?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. Commissioner Monroe, our update on potential resolution for YPD hiring incentive?
Yeah, so I did get some feedback from some local business owners about well, I'm passing around the money collection pan for that, and the two ideas I was bouncing off of them was just, you know, writing a check to a potential incentives fund. Sort of mixed feedback. One immediately offered to or promised to contribute 500 and was just saying, "Where do I send the check?" Well, we're not quite ready to take your money just yet, but there you go. And so it's not a big promise, but hey, it's something. Another owner was saying, yeah, if other people are doing this, then they'll jump in too. I didn't get a number out of them. And then I got the runaround from one or two others, but that's okay. Hey, they can always call me back. The idea of like waiving a month's rent on the rental side, one of the owners was saying that they had tried to do a program similar like that. And I think it was a matter of tax rules or something like that, where they, I guess they interpreted that they couldn't actually do that. So now that may or may not be the case. But
Unless
so-
it was a tax credit property or an income-based property, something like that. But if they can't do a full month, can we do 2 half months?
yeah, or just 5 or 10% off. Could we structure it in some way that that would work?
There's lots of ways to get around it.
Yeah, so I've only spoken to a few so far, but like I said, mixed feedback from them. And then I was thinking, if you guys don't mind me just scanning and sort of using Commissioner Wolkoff's template for the resolution, I could draft something up for that. Oh, and then I just wanted to mention, I'm happy to still press those shirts if you guys want for the. Sorry, that's off topic, but.
No, we'll bring that up for discussion.
Sorry.
All right.
So what do you think, Chief, about the incentive that we're talking about for the officers, so we can get officers to move in the city? I mean, because I don't know if you've physically been here when we started these conversations. Do you have thoughts about that, or?
Well, I
I'm
was.
sure you do. I would love to hear your.
Here's some of them. I'll give you some of them. I appreciate the board, the commission they're trying to be proactive, and trying to help with our recruiting struggles. I meet people every day. Everybody is great at pointing out the problem. What we need is solutions, and we need that to come from everyone. I don't have all the solutions. I think it's a great incentive if we can get some incentive for people to move, to the community and be here. I think that's great. People writing, checks. We do give now. We offer a signing bonus. Our signing bonus, we never had signing bonuses, but we were able to work with the city manager, and we offer $1,500 if you come as a lateral, and then we offer $500 for referrals. Um, when we started it was a good idea, but now we're seeing departments offer as much as $10,000, 15,000. I saw a department offering 20,000, and how they structure where you get 10 to start and 10 after like 2 years. So I think these are good conversations. I think we have to be creative to try to find, some type of recruiting practices to help attract people, because it's a very competitive market, and I don't think it's sustainable for our community I don't think it's sustainable for us to offer $20,000 or $25,000, but I think these are steps in the right direction. I mean, we need all the assistance that we can get with recruiting, because again, it is just, when I say it's a very competitive market, what is being offered and giving to officers today, it makes it very difficult if you're not giving similar. And the fact that we are a smaller department, I always say smaller departments struggle because upward mobility, and I call it lateral movement, is limited. And what I mean by that is we don't offer all the specialized units and opportunities for officers to move around. You talk a lot about officers, everybody wants a canine officer. One reason we don't have a canine, and I'm not against it, but one reason I don't foresee a canine in our agency, at least under my leadership, is not that I don't think there's value in having the canine. The issue is many people don't understand the certification that follows the dog and how much training and money it takes. And every time we have to send the dog to training, not even if it's whether it's a bomb, narcotics dogs aren't as popular anymore for various changes in law. But if you have a bomb dog, there's certain mandates that animal has to be trained on. When you miss it, the dog is no good. It's not valid anymore, if you will, if you're looking at it from a research standpoint. The same thing with the officer. Every time that officer has to go to training, that creates backfill for us, right? That means our overtime budget goes up, because now we have to pay somebody to fill that spot. And then that officer is typically training on their off time. Now that's overtime again. So it just creates, I say all those things that those are some of the limitations we face as a smaller department when trying to attract talent here. And I think these recruiting incentives are nothing but a step in the right direction to at least offer something for us when we're out there trying to recruit.
Are there any thoughts, ideas from the officers themselves that they offer? This would be something that would keep me, or besides the $10,000, $25,000. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Other things that they may, because I don't have a clue as to what I could, offer someone to, come to Ypsi to be, be in the police department here, but if there's something that your officers would say, yeah, this is a positive, here in Ypsi, which is probably true for, there in Van Buren or Willow Run or wherever, they may say that, that would be a positive that happened there. I'd stay there for that. You know what I'm saying? Is there anything that they mentioned?
So I'm gonna get a little long-winded with you, but let me explain this. So years ago, teaching at one of the regional academies, they did a research project with recruits, and I think it extended over 3 classes. And I think the sample size of this group was well about 300 officers. And they asked them, what are the most important things to you in law enforcement? How would you select your agency? The 3 things that came back were outer vest carriers, relaxed shaving for beards, because when I started, we couldn't wear facial hair like you see it, like how I have it now. 5 o'clock shadow, we call it, wasn't allowed, and a relaxed tattoo policy. When I joined law enforcement, there was, you were discouraged from getting tattoos below your elbow because they said you wouldn't be able to promote up to executive rank. So I have no tattoos below my elbow. That was one thing that influenced me. Today, officers want to be able to have tattoos wherever they want. So we relaxed those policies years ago. That's when you started seeing outer carriers in the city. We started wearing them because that's what recruits said that was important to them. When I became interim chief, there was a uniform change under my predecessor, the last administration. When I became interim chief, one thing I took inventory from the staff was, what's something that we can do to raise morale and that would make you, would satisfy you and want to stay in the agency. They wanted a uniform change. The uniform change went back to a more comfortable outer vest, which also for me was important for the budget because it was cheaper for us to buy uniforms. So we changed uniforms, which saved us money and gave them the outer vest. The other issue was pay. We have been very creative to give all our officers a raise. Our lateral officers now are making starting at 77,000 and they top out at 84. When I entered the Ypsilanti Police Department, we were making $47,000. We've built that out and we offer more money than we ever have. I truly believe, again, not to offer an excuse, but I think it's a reason. This is just a competitive market and people are not as interested to be law enforcement officers anywhere in the country. And I think we just feel it because we're a smaller agency. In this area, there's, I don't know how many law enforcement, but there's definitely over 13 or 14. And you have bigger departments, there's more movement. And when you look at how small we are, when we're forcing our officers to work 6 days a week, which on average our officers do, if they leave our agency and go, 2 miles north of Michigan, where we're at right now, they may work 4 or 5 days. It's a change in 2 days, consecutive off. Same thing if you go maybe to Ann Arbor, you may work 3 or 4 days a week versus we're asking you to work 6 because of the call load, because how small we are, and on top of the community engagement that we do. We get a lot of requests. I know there's a narrative that we don't need police, but all I get is calls asking me, hey, I need a police officer here with a car because I want you to hand out candy. I want you to come read to our students every Friday, and I want an officer every Friday. So I go read because I don't have an officer to send. All right. So those things impact our issue. But, to summarize, we've offered pay incentives. We've changed uniforms. We've relaxed tattoo policies. People can have their tattoos wherever, as long as it's not offensive. We're talking about, offensive language, gang-related symbols. They can have tattoos. You even see it with women. When I came into the profession, women always had their hair up. It's really a safety concern. We allow women to wear their hair relaxed, right? We want to be comfortable. Again, the uniforms, we've changed a lot. We're wearing an outer vest. I just think we're in a very competitive market with this profession.
Thank you.
Do you have the statistics to show what your community engagement is and how much you're in doing community engagement? At some point in time in your presentation, just maybe not like monthly, it would be great, but just out of curiosity and how policing has changed. And, it's like you talking about reading to youth. It's like my curious brain goes, like, in 13 years, when these kids are now 18, what kind of difference is that going to make? It's like looking at the Head Start programs. But that's just a thought. But I would be really curious to hear how much of your policing is just community involvement.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, I can. That's a good point. I'll start trying to add that into the monthly report. Just give you an idea of community engagement we're doing. But just a little brief overview. Last month, Ypsi International Elementary, myself, Officer Stinson, Officer Devin Thompson, who's a new officer to the agency, our parking enforcement officers, we were there involved every Friday for about 4 weeks. I know I've talked to the librarian. He's asked me to come back. It's just really time constraints. It's just really about having someone to go there. But I spent about 4 hours with the entire second grade, fourth grade, and fifth grade. And we kind of just had a Q&A. The officers read. I just had a Q&A with the young people and allowed them to ask questions for about a 30-minute session, just anything they want to ask a law enforcement officer. But we're involved with Peacenik the same way. We'll be involved heavily with that. Juneteenth, those things. So some of those special events, but those community engagements, we've had Easter egg hunts on the South Side. Those we're responsible, we participated in as well. But that's something I think I can definitely add going forward, just to give the commission just a little more idea, like, hey, what are you doing every month, and how's that impacting? Because it's a big part of what we do. And one thing we should really track it, because some of these things come in and somebody requests, hey, do you have an officer come out, and and the officer just runs out on a Sunday and may help out and shake some folks' hands, or go up to a park if they have something going on. We stop by, but definitely we can report out on that.
I think that's really important,
Very important.
very important.
Yeah, and then to add on to what Chief is saying, for like the last month and a half, every Monday, at Park Ridge with Officer Edwards, with Supreme Felons in a basketball and homework help night, he's been up there every Monday, engaging with not only just the individuals running the organization, but also the kids who come through and get homework help, play basketball, and just hang out. So yeah, I've been seeing them.
Yeah, I appreciate. Thank you for reminding me. I totally slipped, but yeah, the Mondays we have that presence as well. So we're trying. We're doing the best we can.
Right, and as I think I've shared this story with you many times of just how essential that is when community policing has so many different connotations, but when it's truly being done and there is that human connection, it can change a life, like, substantially. And if you change one life, we're changing all lives. So
It's a recruiting initiative too. Find some
Yes.
young cops.
yes.
There's some young officers there. I tell you, they had some questions. They're good investigators.
And also, I'm not too sure what what it looks like in our police force or just police forces in general, but like with officers that have children, right? Who may be struggling with childcare, is it possible to get in contact with like Bottles and Backpack on Michigan Ave to see if they would be in support of, offering childcare to officers that work for the city at a discounted rate, or at extended hours for, because the shifts for PD are, outside of regular work shifts, right? So, yeah.
What are our 24-hour daycares? I'd be willing to research what our 24-hour within city limits, the 24-hour daycares are. I don't know anymore where they are.
Got you. Yeah. So that's just something that
Something
I was thinking
Great
about.
idea.
Good point. Good idea.
Great idea.
Anything else on the incentives for YPD? Hearing incentive? All right. Commissioner Wolkoff, you are up again.
On this back, we had talked last month about creating YPAC cards with a QR code. Hopefully, if you use this QR code, you will end up at the YPAC website, because that was the agreement where we were going to send everybody. And so that's being kept updated. And so people could get what the calendar was. When I originally sent this through, it was to get approval, but then I talked to the chair and he was just like, send it through. So these have been ordered and they'll be here the 27th. 250 of them that we get to build things with, that we get to pass out for the Peacenik and
Perfect.
to give out information.
Great.
And to give to you, I mean, if you want some. Did everybody test this?
I
And did you end up where I said you would?
I absolutely did.
Good.
All right. Great job on working, getting that together, Gail, and ordered and just managing it. Um, Public. Councilman.
So, in for Peacenik and talking about these cars, is YPAC aiming to like aiming to have a table at Peacenik or just a presence?
We're gonna have a presence, hits the shirts, and Commissioner Monroe's statement that he's still willing to, put something on the back for us. But keep in mind that Peacenik is on the 7th.
Yep.
Which is coming up really soon. So not a table, nor working as ambassadors or greeters or anything like that. It's just to have a presence and say, here, we're part of the community. We're here for you.
Beautiful, beautiful. That was it.
Got the cards.
And hand out the cards and our nice shirts.
Go.
All right. Do we have anyone, public comment? Come right ahead. This is our new podium.
Chief, congratulations again. A lot of jump off points here, and I think, by the way, Damian, I'm Ward 2 resident, Oakwood Street, and about 5 months into the city, but I've been in and around Ann Arbor mostly for about 10 years, here and there, coming in and out from California, and I'm here because I want to be here, specifically in the city. I love it.
Awesome.
And it's a beautiful thing to see the structure, as ladies alluded to. It's we got to have the structure, and then the people will come. And there are a lot of jump off points. I mean, that daycare center right away, I'm thinking, hey, why don't we put a daycare center here and use that also as a recruiting tool to bring other officers that are going to other places? So there can be many ways to branch things like that out. But one particular thing, it sounds like we have the appetite to bring new officers in, obviously, right? And the need. Is the money there for it? And if the money is there for the budget and there are that many openings, is it possible to collapse some of those positions to aggregate the money and make the money be more attractive and bring in a couple of more, be competitive in that way, be attractive in that way, bring in some senior people maybe, and that'll be a help to some of the junior people in the department and that kind of thing. The teaching component, I understand there's going to be a need to have boots on the ground, so to speak, so that's going to affect it. But if we don't have the boots on the ground as it is, and we need them, and the money's there, let's collapse that. So if you take 2-3 of those roles and make that one role and bump up the revenue, bump up the pay, and bring a number of those people in. And that could also free you up and serve as an educational tool and that kind of thing. And perhaps the money and some of the upside that they would get from being in a superior position will, I don't know, it'll keep them here a little bit more. It'll be a little bit more interesting of a role for them. So, that's a thought. I know in the industry that I work on, that's, it happens. It's something, it can go both ways. Sometimes it's, okay, we have one person we're paying a lot of money to, they're aged out. Let's modernize it. Let's branch it out and bring in some junior people and split up the revenue and have more, quote unquote bodies to do the work. And that's more significant in this situation than it is in some of the environments I work in. But at the same time, when you have the flip side of it is when you have the superior people and you pay them, they can, for example, in my profession, I can get any number of people on the phone, but if it's a bunch of junior people, they're not as efficient. They don't have the access. They don't have the experience. So I think that's just food for thought. I've seen it work both ways. If, when you bring in the junior people, you need the hot shots that want to do it and stay, but then you have the challenge of them bouncing and going to the next best thing. So that's just food for thought as a way of incentivizing. And some of these things, like I said, the daycare and some of these other things that are kind of innovative ways of saying, hey, look, we have other things here. And I just don't think, my sense is people don't know what we have here. And the beauty of it is, and I'll drop the mic on this, I mentioned to the chief, probably repeating it, that the key is the people being in place. And it sounds like it's going. So, thank you guys again. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very much.
Anyone online?
If you'd like to speak and you're online, please raise your hand. No hand raised.
Any announcements? Commissioner Monroe?
To announce, you guys at the Peacenik thing.
Commissioner Humes?
Nothing to announce.
Commissioner Walker?
Guess the only thing that I have is I'm going to state the obvious is, well, the obvious in my life. Schools are letting out, come on, your life too. Schools are going to be getting out in the next several weeks. So if you know an adolescent or a teenager, that this is the time to reach out to them, to give them support, to make sure that they have connections and community connections, because we all need connections. So whether they're connecting with a positive person or whether they're connecting with people that they think are positive, they're going to connect. And just to make sure that our students stay safe and they start the 25-26 school year.
Thank you. Councilman Tucson, any announcements?
Do,
All right, come on.
so, on June the 3rd, at our next city council meeting, we'll be finalizing the budget, if I'm not mistaken. And if I'm not mistaken, there is a budget booklet somewhere there in the world of cityofypsilanti.com that I can get the link for and send it to you all, so that we can all see the budget. And at some point, if you all like to discuss it. Aside from that, and more on the hiring incentives thing with the daycare, once again, I don't know the situation with any of our police officers, but we have in the city limit, we got grandma's daycare on Congress. We have early bird learning, oh, don't zoom out like that. Early bird learning and childcare on Michigan Ave. And then right up the street from Early Bird, we have bottle and backpacks. And then also right here on Wallace, we have the collaborative Ypsilanti YMCA Child Development Center. So
And they're 24 hours?
not 24 hours. Those are just the ones that exist in the city limit.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I'm not sure of any 24
We
hours.
have any 24 hours on say that.
But in addition to daycare centers, there are daycare providers
Providers,
Yes, as
right,
well.
you would.
that are licensed by the state that do offer
In-home.
unconventional hours.
Right.
Yes.
So,
Oh,
yeah.
it's called unconventional hours these days.
Yes. You have to be politically correct.
That was
Oh, excuse me. Thank you. Thank you for,
Mhm. Oh, also,
No, you weren't done.
I'm sorry. Lost it. I'll email it
You're
to
too
y'all if
young
I
for
remember
that.
it.
Okay. All right. I don't have anything. Looking forward to Peacenik. The night before Peacenik, is a thought,
softball game.
Pride Festival in Depot Town.
Mm.
Pride Festival in Depot Town. I think it starts at 5 or 6. Yes. Yep. So come on down, have a ball. Anything for us? Wonderful. Then I make a motion that we adjourn this meeting, May 22nd, 2025. All in favor?
Hi.
Aye.
You were close.
Do it.
Oh,
There we go.
sorry.
Do it.